technology will help me or not, or even may hurt me. So I rather to not even touch it. So both are not very good. And the root cause is, do you really understand what is behind the technology so that you can really make an educated guess of whether you should invest in this technology or not?
Hey everybody, hello and welcome back. It's your favorite time of the week. It's my favorite time of the week. It's time for Leaders Talk. As usual, I am your intrepid host, Andrew Dupy, head of communications here at Leaders Brands. And today with me, I have my very special guest, Cupid Chan. So let me take a second to introduce Cupid to you, and then we will get right into it. Cupid is a distinguished figure in data analytics technology. He boasts a remarkable career with many notable roles at institutions like Johns Hopkins University and the University of Maryland. As a lead architect for a major U.S. agency's business intelligence analytics program, he sets new standards in data intelligence, managing vast data realms across diverse ecosystems. Cupid's leadership extends to key roles in organizations like the Linux Foundation and the Mortgage Industry and Maintenance Organization, where he helps shape industry standards, he fosters innovations, and his career has become the fusion of AI, BI, and human insight that drives technology analytics into our future. And very importantly for us, he is the author of Planify AI, a simple guide for novices and useful guide for pros. Cupid, welcome. So you have done a lot.
Thanks, Andrew.
I
You're
want to dig
doing
really into the
well.
book, but yeah.
I am impressed. And I am also very humble when I hear your introduction of myself.
Well, let's rather than have that, let's actually have you give an opportunity to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience, cover some of the things I might not have covered, and kind of let them know, what makes you run.
Yeah, I think you cover a lot, and so something that not really we haven't really talked yet. I think we will cover this in the like 45 or an hour or so. So I would actually wait for your question to actually get more in-depth conversation with me.
Okay, well, I mean, like just for 1 second, kind of just cover a little bit. What got you into the world that you're in right now? What's exactly inspired you to become a distinguished figure in data analytics and get into the AI and make it something that basically make it easier for people to use and make it easier for businesses to use?
Actually, you know what? Technology, AI, data was actually not my aspiration when I was.
Really? So where do we begin?
Yeah. I actually want to be a singer or an entertainer when I was young. In fact, I won a singing contest when I was studying my undergrad in Vancouver in University of British Columbia. And I also had someone from Hong Kong invited me over back to Hong Kong, where I was born, to do some like an entertainment industry gig. But
Really?
I was still like studying. And, as someone grew up from Hong Kong, my parents actually are very opposing about this idea, saying that I give you an opportunity to study the computer engineering, and you choose not to study and give up your study and go become like an entertainer, singer. So that's the reason why okay, let's forget about it. I will continue my study as a good testimony as a Christian, and to respect my parents who pay my tuition. So I continue to study and graduate from UBC, from electrical and computer engineering. And I found a job in the greater Washington, D.C. area. MicroStrategy, now is called Strategy. It's actually
Mhm.
my very first job. And
Really?
I was hired as their very first team member in the SDK team also. So if you open up the source code, you may still see my name there. And so that's my little story behind the data and analytics.
Well, you've been very successful at it, so I assume that you, along the way, developed at least some kind of passion for IT and data analytics. So, tell me a little bit about that side of the story. What about it became something that began to fascinate you and draw you into it that maybe appealed to you more than the
Yeah,
bright lights of singing and an entertainment career.
very true, very true. So like I don't want to waste something that I learned, right? So I
Right.
keep on
Yeah.
doing, and as I told you, MicroStrategy is actually a BI, business intelligence software company.
Gotcha.
And BI, you cannot separate BI with data. So from that point on, I get myself into the data area. But soon you become big data and then artificial intelligence or AI. That's everything is related to data. But I think something that really makes me do whatever I am doing right now in the past like 20 something years is like I I I hate disorganized. All right. So
Yes.
not only my room or my bed, my car, I want to be very organized. And I
Mm.
find very interesting thing is for data, if the data is not organized, you cannot really get the real benefit from it, the real value from the data that is not organized. So, and you think about this like analytics and AI sitting on top of data, just like you are building a house on quicksand or a really firm foundation. Whether you have quicksand or firm foundation is how reliable the data can be.
Yeah.
So that really makes me like a kind of like passionate to clean up the data, make sure the data is good, and then put on top of that the analytics layer and also AI nowadays.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's I think one of the things that people continually when they have hesitancy with AI, a lot of it comes with the idea is what I'm going to get out of AI accurate? Is what I get out of AI actually going to be helpful for me? If I completely rely on this in my business in certain ways, am I making a mistake? So that's a
Yeah.
question I hear a lot from CEOs, entrepreneurs who, might have some hesitancy on AI or not really deep understandings of it. So,
Mhm.
how do you kind of explain to a business leader who is maybe a little bit hesitant on the concept of what AI can do for somebody and how they can actually be able to use it to become successful with it?
Yeah, I'm thinking AI is just another tool. If you think
Right.
about this 20 something years ago, like when Google first started, it's also Google is also a tool. Uh,
Exactly.
but some people, when you're talking about new technology to different people, they may have different reaction. On one hand, people are thinking like, oh, you know what? I really need to adopt these technologies because like otherwise my competitor will start adopting and I will be behind. That's one
I hear
aspect.
that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they may not even understand the risk of adopting that technology,
Mhm.
right? But on the other hand, it's also not very good. It's like some people will say, no, I have still have a very high like skeptical about like whether this technology will help me or not, or even may hurt me. So I rather to not even touch it. So both are not very good. And the root cause is, do you really understand what is behind the technology so that you can really make an educated guess of whether you should invest in this technology or not? Like before, data warehouse, Google, mobile, internet, and now AI, everything is the same. We hear this story repeated again and again for
Mhm.
each like a generation of technology. But now AI is so big that we cannot avoid to talk about, are you going to adopt AI or not? If you are adopted, what really is the risk and the consideration you need to think about?
Yeah, and that's I think what I'm seeing with this very different iteration of new technologies. Because you're right, we've adapted to the internet, we adapted to Google, we adapted to concepts like SEO that didn't even exist before the 1990s. But nowadays AI has happened so quickly that it's almost it, 10 months ago it was barely a blip on a lot of people's radars. 24 months ago was nothing. I mean, if AI was something that was kind of a gimmick or a play around tool.
Mhm.
So, nowadays with business leaders, I think they're trying to figure out what am I going to be able to do to make this function without disrupting my business? I mean, what do you say to people that are trying to educate themselves about what kind of a tool AI is, to try and understand them, what it does, how it's going to help them, and what they should avoid trying to do with it?
Yeah, but Andrew, you know what? I think disruption is actually a good thing. So like
Really? Okay.
they are
Well, yeah.
afraid to be disrupted, but on the other hand, maybe you want to be disrupted. I think like
Okay.
think about any new technology is the same. And talking about this particular point, I think I want to bring up an analogy. So let me give you a question. So
Sure.
Uber and Tesla,
Yeah.
what's common between the two companies?
I mean, they're both vehicular based. Yeah.
Yeah, like a vehicle industry, but what really is the difference between them is one, Tesla, it reinvent how the car should move from a
Right. So yeah,
dependent,
automation and autopilot. Yeah. Yeah.
right? But on the other hand, if you think about Uber, the real technology is not really new technology, like the map, mobile, right? Everything, or even the mobile application, is not something new for us to invent, but they put everything together in a very unique way to form a new business model. So if you think about that, there's no right or wrong. Rather, you create a brand new technology so to revolutionize the industry, or you put something already exist together to do something brand new from a business perspective. And AI is the same. So someone who is very passionate to create a new AI algorithm, maybe like understand LLM, right? Or image recognition. So there are a lot of different new algorithms being created every day. If you're passionate about that, then you may be the Tesla in the AI. But on the other hand, some people may say, no, I may not even need to or have the appetite to invent that new technology. But I know how to put these little AI things together to help and enable some new industry or business model. Feel free to do that. I think like from a business or entrepreneur perspective, there is no right or wrong to create a brand new AI algorithm or to put something together that especially open source. There are a lot of open source in AI community.
Mhm.
Feel
Yeah, I noticed.
free to use that if that helps you to solve a critical business problem. Then I think either way you'll be thrive.
Yeah, and I think I have never seen it looked at it that way. That's actually a really good way to look at it, of how those two different industries that are very similar have been able to actually make that work. And people don't think about that. Like sometimes AI can be something very small. That
Mhm.
AI can be something that's just assisting you, that can help get something done that otherwise might have taken you a much longer time to do it. Like simplifying research, streamlining things like that.
Mhm.
So was taking a kind of a step to the side and looking at it this way, is this kind of are these kind of questions what inspired you to write Planify AI?
No, not
No.
at
Okay.
not at all. In fact,
Interesting.
if you read my book, you will see that in the introduction. How this book was born is a very simple conversation that I had with my son in
Okay.
Hershey Park. So I'm not sure whether you have been there.
Well, for the benefit of our audience, many of them who have not,
Uh,
just kind of give us an overview then of what that entailed and what gave you that inspiration then to write it.
well, Hershey Park is in Pennsylvania. Think about this as a Disney World with a lot of chocolates and candies.
Yeah.
So you can even smell some chocolate smell when you step into the Hershey Park. But of course, it's the very famous Hershey chocolate. They have like a what is that? Like a fancy roller coaster place that you can play. And one ride that my son loves, it's called Wildcat. And
Mm.
it's not only him likes it, but a lot of people also love this ride. So that's why we have a long line waiting for that one ride. And when he was 7 years old, like we used to go there for a long weekend. And while we're waiting, he suddenly asked me a question. Hey, Dad, what are you doing at work? Of course, I would try to explain as much as I can. So
Yeah.
like in at work, I'm going to like build a neural network and clean the data and try to came up with some like a confusion matrix and make sure everything works. If not, then I will rewrite the neural network again, or I may even put the Monte Carlo to make some prediction. Yeah.
Yeah.
You really think I explained to my 7 years old son that way what I do? Of course not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, because that's gonna go right over the head.
I I was I was actually very challenged by this one question because
Yeah.
I can explain to like any professional with all those kind of jargon, right?
Yeah, they get it. Yeah.
But for 7 years old, how can I explain to the level that he can understand? So
Gotcha.
I try to come up with some analogy and explain him what is supervised learning versus unsupervised learning. So for example, I would say, hey, remember when your younger sister was like still a baby and learned how to speak? We'll say, hey, like you remember this is a pen, right? Like you
Hmm.
remember this pointy thing is a pen, and then we hold up another thing. It's called apple. So she will then try to recognize this long pointy thing is called a pen. And then the round red thing is called an apple. If she doesn't get it the first time, we keep on showing different example. You know what? That's supervised learning in a oversimplified way, right?
Yeah.
So I keep on using this kind of analogy to explain it to him. And after the 30 minutes waiting time in the line, he can actually talk back to me. What is AI? And that is very encouraging. As a consultant, I can now
Yeah.
not only explain it to professional, I can also explain to my son, right? And I have a meetup group, well, about 1,500 people, like for that group at that time. And I decide, because I got a very good feedback from my son, right? I decided to convert that conversation into a presentation so that I can present this in my AI in Action meetup group. And then after I present this, my colleagues, Professor Gao or Dr. Gao, he came to me and said, hey, Cupid, the way that you explain AI to a kid could be
Mhm.
very helpful for also the leadership or management or someone who wants to know what is AI but does not have that kind of like technical background. I said, wow, that is a brilliant idea. So I also I modified the presentation to become a keynote presentation. And then I
Right.
present this to different occasions, like in Shanghai, in Singapore, in different like conferences. I share this kind of like a simplified explanation of what is AI and got pretty good response. Then last year, I find out that I cannot keep on going to different places to keep talking. I need someone, or at least something to be written down so that like whoever or whenever people wants to read it, they can have a reference, right? So that's how I really sit down and talk to you and your team and try to convert those kind of ideas along with some of the lecture notes because I'm also an adjunct in
Yeah.
the University of Maryland. I try to also like combine all those and beef up this content to become planified AI.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's amazing because that's what some people like me need. When I'm talking about that, I will tell you, as somebody who's been around in business for a long time, many of us that have been around, we probably know less than the 7-year-old when we're starting out.
At least they have the curiosity, right? At least
At least they have
well,
but it's also not the 41 extra years that I've got compared to him, where I've been doing things in an entirely different way.
uh-huh.
And then you have others that do that. So I can understand then why you would want to do this and why it would be useful for a pro. So
Mhm.
what do you feel like a professional who is someone who at least has a better than average understanding of how AI works, that's beginning to think about, how do I want to integrate AI into my business? What in your book would be useful for somebody like that who's saying, well, okay, I don't really need this explained to me like a 7-year old. I'm a little bit advanced. So where is the useful for a pro part for me?
Yeah, I think like there are a lot of different things in AI. And
Hmm.
even a pro, even if you're a doctor,
Yeah.
sometimes you may forget the very basic thing. I think especially one chapter, I call it like the top 10 algorithm.
Hmm.
That I find out that it could be very dry or very tedious for like a novice, for newbies. But that could be a very good refresher for pro because like you have 10 top 10, like actually it's the algorithm family, not each algorithm, but the family of the algorithm. I group them together. I think it's kind of like a reference. So reference like dictionary,
Yeah.
you're not going to like read dictionary every day, right? But sometimes if you forget, let's say like the time series or like a neural network, you will go there and have a very quick like few minutes refresher to say, oh, I now remember what is this kind of like a algorithmic family it's going to help us to do in AI. So I think that's also something in the book that would be helpful not only for the beginner but also for the pro.
Great. And what do you see this book doing for you in the future? I know that's a question a lot of our authors ask whenever they write a book. The very first thing they do when they sit down is, what the heck am I going to do with this thing? So, what are your plans for using Planify AI for you and your business?
I think that's the very first thing come into my mind is I actually did not think about business. I
Okay.
I want to document this for my son and my kids in general, so that they understand that oh, once upon a time, we had the conversation with my dad, right? So that's actually the very first thing I was thinking when I wrote this book. But now, as this book become published, I think another thing I can do is before we even go into too much technical details, I can simply like recommend or give this book to my client so that they understand in order to make the right decision, they have to understand the very basic. And if you don't even know what's the very basic or afraid or try not to because they are scared of the technical details, then maybe this book is a very good entry point for them to understand.
Okay, excellent. And yeah, I mean, you're right. A lot of people, when they start writing books, they they think about the book themselves, but then they don't think about the future as much until, well, heck, now that I have it, what am I going to do with it? But I can just see so many ways in which you can use this, especially with the way that everybody right now is interested in learning more and more and more about this and trying to implement it.
Mhm.
So, is I don't usually ask this specific question, but this is something that I'm just interested in. I know that a lot of our audience asks me this all the time. I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Cal Enos, the CEO of Keynote Technologies, who would tell me, you got to ask him this question: where do you see the future? So you're in the middle of it. You're someone who's an innovator. What do you see as the future of AI? Uh, However you want to address it, whether you something small in business or whether just as a large overall world changing event. What's your
Mhm.
opinion there?
Actually, you are not the first one asking me this question.
I'm not surprised at all.
And last year, I was asked this question by Dr. Will. Like he is like one of the very prominent oncology doctor. So he said, "Hey Cupid, let me give you a challenge. If sky is the limit and you have like no problem about the resource that you are going to get, what do you think will be very helpful for maybe leveraging any technology, AI included, to improve healthcare?" All right. So I took this,
Yeah, let's just yeah.
yeah, and healthcare because he's the doctor, right?
Yeah.
And I keep thinking for a few months about this. I think the current AI is very, very beneficial and provide a lot of value to us. You mentioned that over the past 24 months, a lot business
Yeah.
has been changed because of AI. But there are a few things that we can still do better. So first of
Mhm.
all, AI is very cool, but the current AI implementation or the way the current AI work has two problems. The
Mhm.
first problem is data privacy. So
Yeah.
in order for us to train the AI model, we need to collect all the AI in one centralized repository so that the algorithm can put on top and then start training, and then whatever LLM is training, and then they can or this model can understand better what is underneath, right? That is
Mhm.
good. But by the time you collect the data in one centralized repository, you immediately breach the data privacy, which someone may treat it a very serious concern.
Yeah.
That's number one. And number two, I call it data is fire. Data is fire because as simple as, let's imagine, Andrew, I have a torch here, okay?
Okay.
And I pass my fire to you. Now you have my fire, okay? I walk out of this room. The moment that I walk out, you can keep passing my fire to someone else without my knowledge and without my permission, right?
Right.
I said data is fire because data, think about this, behaves exactly the same. The moment that I give or share my data to you, Andrew, you can keep on passing my data without my permission and without my knowledge.
Right. Yeah. Forever. Yeah.
That is, I think at least those are the two issues or concern for the current AI or
Yeah.
how the current AI is developed. Now, what's the solution? What if I can tell you, what if I tell you we can actually train AI without disclosing your data? This is actually possible. The
Mhm.
latest research, this is something called federated learning. So instead of collecting all the data in one place and let the model to train on that, which is a, like privacy problem, or you share the data is fire problem. Instead of that, we change the paradigm by pushing the model out. Let's say, for example, I have a mobile phone here. If
Mhm.
my data is stored inside this mobile phone, you want my data to train and enhance your model, the model can push to the cell phone and get the model trained here. And the resulting model can be sent it back to me without exposing the data. So we solve the problem of the data privacy and the data is fire problem. And even better, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, there are a lot of LLM. They're very powerful,
Yeah.
but they are powerful because they train on openly available data,
Right.
internet, right?
Right.
Think about financial data. Think about healthcare data. They are proprietary. They are very
Right.
sensitive.
Yeah.
What if, right? That means the LLM that we have does not have any touch on those kind of data. But
Right.
what
Yeah.
if,
You can't dig into that to that.
right, right.
Yeah.
But what if we can also tap into those data using the technology that I have just explained?
With
It
security.
will then put the LLM on steroid, right? Because
Right.
we tap into something that the current powerful LLM has never been touched on so far, right? Not only like that, let me add one more thing to the mix
Okay.
about real-time data, real-time feedback. I'm talking about IoT, Internet of Things, or Internet of Medical Things. Let's say glucose monitor, or as simple as like the smartwatch or the Oura Ring, like those kind of IoT. Those kind of data those kind of devices keep collecting the data real time. This, on one hand, can also be used to train the model. We explained that already. But this also can be used as an indicator or trigger if something really bad's happened. So instead of wait until the patient goes to the clinic to do the blood test, maybe there's
Right.
already some signal that we can review from the Internet of Things to provide this proactively and then use the personalized model already deployed in your phone. For example, we catch the problem right there. So I combine the federated learning, AI, IoT, and data all together, and I coin the term Federator. Don't Google it. I make it up. It's not really like a publicized yet, but
But say I can mute that and you can copyright it.
no worry. But we have already registered all the website to really
Good.
get this rolling. So our company is trying to also like make sure all this kind of new technology. I told you, right? We have two kinds of business, Tesla and Uber. Maybe we need to do a little bit of Tesla to invent the federated learning because it's a still cutting edge technology, right? But
Yeah.
AI or data, there are a lot of people already put something out there. We may also do a little bit of the Uber approach, right? To make this federated happen in a way that we can push AI, the limit of AI to another level. So that's, I would say, like maybe it's the future of the AI. We're working on that.
That is yeah. I would say that's a positive future. I know that that's actually what people are asking me when they ask the questions like, what's the good stuff? Because we concentrate so much on the bad because we grew up with the idea of AI being the Terminator or
Mhm.
the scary monster that's in the room that wants to come and get us. But no, I mean that's just it. If you use AI just like you say as a tool, you understand the concept that we've already been using AI in many ways as it is. It's just becoming more advanced. And now we're starting to actually figure out how to secure it, how to make it a tool. It's not necessarily going to replace people. It can be something that can be used to enhance people. And yeah, going at it from that position, I think that's a voice that we don't hear enough of right now.
Yeah,
We hear a lot more caution when I think there's some blue skies that might be ahead that we don't want to miss by keeping our heads down.
yeah. Not only not replacing the people. If you think about this, each and every time when we have some kind of revolution, like
Yeah,
industrial revolution to democratize the human labor, right? Or computer revolution to really democratize our mental like resources, right? Every single time, people will bring up a concern. Oh, you have this new technology. More people will be out of job because like they would no their skills would no longer be needed, right? Yes and no. Let's
right.
talk about like talk about cars, right? When Mercedes-Benz like when we create the very first car in the world, people are afraid, oh, you know what? All the jockey will be out of job. That
Yeah, yeah.
that's
No
wrong.
more buggy whip factories.
But think about the number of drivers in the world right now
Yep.
compared to the number of jockey. We are actually producing more job. who who actually will be out of job is the one who still think riding a horse is better than driving a car. Those
Yep.
people will be out running out of job. Not
Innovation.
yeah, you need to be agile to adopt to the new technology.
Yep. I
Yeah.
agree. Cooper, we're running a little short on time. So, for the benefit of our audience, how can they find out more about you so they can dig even deeper?
Okay, so they can actually Google me because my name is a little bit unique.
I wouldn't know anything about
Uh,
that.
So you can Google me, or if you can like go to Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or all different kinds of like big book platform, they can also search for the book Planify AI. So basically, the goal for this book is to use the plain language to explain AI. So this is simple enough for a novice, but useful enough for a pro.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, those links are down below. Cupid, I mean, we could do this for hours. I say that a lot on the show, but we probably on this one we probably really could. So yeah, in the future, maybe we can invite you back, dig a little bit deeper, see what this book has done for you as we go along, and maybe have a little bit of a deeper conversation on AI.
Yeah, sure. Anytime. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being here, Cupid. Have a great one.